Good morning, everybody. We will go live immediately. So let me count down, please. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We are live. Thank you.
Distinguished participants, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Kenji Kato, Senior Program Officer from International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. I am most pleased to be the MC of today's event. I would like to take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to all the participants here today to this TICAD8 side event webinar of Energy Transition for Africa, co-organized by Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, METI, and IRENA. To begin with, allow me to share with you some housekeeping announcements. The event is conducted virtually. For speakers, if you encounter any technical issues, please write your issue in the chat box. A recording of the webinar will be available on the IRENA website after the event. We have live interpretation to English, French, Arabic, Portuguese, and Japanese. For all speakers, I would like to kindly request you to please make sure to mute yourself until you are named. Today's agenda is opening remarks, 2 presentations from IRENA, and moderated panel discussions and interventions among representatives from Africa and Japan. So without any further delay, it is now my great pleasure to invite His Excellency, Mr. Nakatani Shinichi, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, who will make opening remarks. Excellency, you have the floor.
Afternoon and evening. I am Nakatani Shinichi, State Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. TICAD8 is to be held this coming weekend. The eyes of the world are on Africa and especially on the host country, Tunisia. In this context, we are pleased to co-host today's webinar together with IRENA as an official side event of TICAD8. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who have contributed to the organization of this webinar. The global energy market is in crisis due to the situation in Ukraine and other factors. At the same time, we must work to achieve carbon neutrality. Under these circumstances, it is important to diversify energy sources and to secure stable supply while moving forward toward carbon neutrality. Africa, where TICAD8 and COP27 are to be held this year, has abundant renewable energy potential in the form of solar, wind, geothermal, and hydropower. In the future, Africa is expected to produce and use green hydrogen and green ammonia. In May of this year, my ministry METI hosted the plenary sessions of the second Japan-Africa Public-Private Economic Forum in Kenya. The 4 policy pillars in the outcomes of the forum included the concept which we call the green. Under the green pillar, we will advance green growth, particularly through supporting African countries in achieving realistic energy transitions toward renewable. METI will support the development of power generation, including regarded power supply, taking advantage of the abundant renewable energy resources in Africa. We will also support the development of natural resources. Our support provided to African countries will be based on actual situation in each country. As concrete measures, METI provided assistance for feasibility studies for private companies related to infrastructure investment, risk underwriting through public insurance to encourage private investment, human resources development seminars in the area of renewable energy, support for decarbonization through the joint credit mechanism, and promotion of adaptation initiative. Through these measures, any Japanese companies have already participated in renewable energy projects in Africa, including in wind and solar power. In addition to support for renewable energy projects, METI has recently provided support for various initiatives such as the green hydrogen projects in Kenya that take advantage of its geographical characteristics and the study of the use of blue ammonia in Egypt with a view to shifting to green ammonia in the future. Even so, much room remains for Japanese companies' contribution to green growth in Africa, and METI will continue to promote each efforts. Today, we will discuss the current status, challenges, and our measure for utilization of renewable energy in African countries. Also, Japan company will present their projects. We hope that you gain a better understanding of how Japanese companies are working together with African countries to introduce renewable energy in realistic way. In cooperation with IRENA, which has many member countries around the world, including in Africa, METI will promote various initiatives to realize realistic energy transitions that reflected the actual situation in Africa. I would like to conclude my remarks by expressing my sincere hope that this seminar will contribute to an even better future for the people of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency Mr. Nakatani, for these words. It is with pleasure that I invite Mr. Francesco La Camera, IRENA's Director General, to deliver his opening remarks. Director General, you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, let me begin by expressing my warmest welcome to all of you joining us today. It's my great pleasure to open today's webinar in cooperation with the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, as a key partners from one of the most dedicated members countries for IRENA. I would also like to express my sincere congratulations for both African and Japanese governments towards the 8th TICAD in the Republic of Tunisia. I wish you great success in the upcoming plenary discussions. Let me start this brief introduction with the statement of effect. In the last decade, Africa intercepted only 2% of world renewable energy investment. Considering that 70% of the world population lives in the African continent, it is clear that it's unacceptable. If we want a just energy transition in compliance with the Paris Agreement goals, Africa cannot be left out. The Ukrainian crisis, energy market volatility, and the consequent wave of inflation have highlighted the vulnerability of energy systems based on fossil fuels. If we want to build a more sustainable and equitable future, this system must change. The African continent is endowed with vast renewable energy resource potential, including solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, and others. With the development of renewables, prospects for economic growth, expanding energy access, and creating jobs can be offered to all African countries. To achieving an African green transformation for economic and social development, a comprehensive enabling policy and regulatory package will be key to facilitate renewable energy investment, backed by international cooperation and active private sector participation on the ground. IRENA has been collaborating across the African continent in various aspects, including policy, regulation, finance, and technologies at both regional and country level. Today, we are pleased to provide our distinguished participants with insights and findings from IRENA's cooperation programs with the African continent. In addition to Japan's expertise on the African development through TICAD, complemented with the African countries' views and prospects for energy transition leading to our action investment in the African continent. So, distinguished participant, this year, Egypt is the host of the COP27, and it is essential to ensure the ambition raised at the COP26 become a reality. Today's too many African citizens are in the dark. We want to bring them light. We have to focus on action. But speaking of action is not enough. That is why at the end of October, IRENA will host, in cooperation with the Nigerian government, our first African Investment Forum, with a focus on West Africa. Others will follow, and we are striving for a successful lineup of renewable energy projects that can be financed through our Energy Transition Accelerating Financing Platform. Moreover, it is my hope that today's TICAD webinar will further show how action by providing a platform to initiate the next step for enhanced collaboration among policymakers and practitioners, sharing best practice with the ambition to bring much needed results for Africa. So I thank you all for participating today, and I wish you all robust and pragmatic discussions which will result in impactful actions. This is the decade of action. Let us work together towards an achievable, sustainable, and just energy transition. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director General, for your opening remarks. Moving on in our agenda, I now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Gulbs Gonov, Director of IRENA's Country Engagement and Partnerships Division, and Ms. Diara Hawila, Program Officer of IRENA's Knowledge, Policy and Finance Center, to present IRENA's engagement with Africa and the key insights from African renewable energy market analysis. Gulbs, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kenji. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to join you today, and allow me to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to the government of Japan for their invaluable contributions to IRENA's work, and also in the organization of the 8th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, but also thank to the government of Tunisia for hosting the event and the TICAD8. I'm pleased to highlight a few key points for our discussions later today to provide our perspectives on a renewables-driven energy transition in Africa to support its sustainable development and climate ambitions, while also touching upon some of IRENA's significant work we undertake across the continent to support this transition. As per IRENA's World Energy Transitions Outlook, renewables-based solutions will play a key role for an energy transition pathway aligned with 1.5-degree climate goal. And 90% of all decarbonization in 2050 will involve renewable energy through direct supply of low-cost power, efficiency, electrification, sustainable bioenergy, and green hydrogen. Climate action consistent with an 1.5-degree pathway will foster Africa's development efforts set by the Agenda 2063 by ensuring a more resilient economy and society while leaving no one behind in a manner compatible with sustainable development goals. There's a huge opportunity for Africa to advance the world's energy transition, and every country can and must position itself to take full advantage of its renewable energy resource potential, where every African country possesses them in abundance. To support the continent, the agency is collaborating with policymakers and other stakeholders on multiple fronts through regional or country level and even thematic level initiatives. Just to give you an example, the Clean Energy Corridors concept has been first implemented within the Eastern and Southern African power pools and then extended to West African power pool to support the scale up of renewable energy generation, but also cross-border trade of renewable power. And we have provided various streams of technical assistance and capacity building activities across a number of policy, technology, and finance topics, such as long-term energy planning, power purchase agreement design for renewable energy, grid integration of variable renewables, etc. Most recently, IRENA has been contributing to the development of the Africa Continental Power Systems Master Plan, CMP in short, as part of the continental process led by the African Union Development Agency and supported by various partners. Under this initiative, IRENA is one of the selected partners to provide energy modeling support and capacity building for the 5 African power pools to help identify the most cost-effective ways of expanding clean energy transition and transmission infrastructure across the African continent. In the climate space, the ambitious and far-reaching energy transition commitments by our member states are being reflected in their updated nationally determined contributions. And as you know, there was a very intensive process leading up to COP26 at the end of last year. But this process is still ongoing, and we are still working with a number of countries through our providing dedicated service offerings in various technology, policy, and finance areas, such as data and statistics, resource assessments, climate technology and infrastructure, power system flexibility, readiness assessments, decarbonization roadmaps, policy support, etc. And IRENA has so far engaged with 84 countries across the globe through 170 streams of packages to support the enhancement, but also an implementation of the energy component of NDCs. And we have so far worked with 27 African countries. And here I would like to express our readiness to continue supporting African countries in their clean energy transition processes. Modern energy access is central to achieving the sustainable development goals and in leveraging the opportunities offered by off-grid renewable energy solutions. And IRENA has a comprehensive framework around the energy access theme, which includes analytical work, but also on-the-ground support to the countries, where here I would like to touch upon the nexus between energy and end-use sectors such as livelihoods, agri-food, and health as part of our efforts to reinforce climate adaptation action. Our intensive work in health, energy, and food energy space over the past several years started to bear fruit. Here, our approach is pretty simple. We first conduct country-specific viability assessments for integrating renewable electrification solutions into agri-food and health service value chains. And then we translate these assessments into specific investment project proposals that can benefit from IRENA's project facilitation framework that I will try to explain in a moment. Pilot implementation of this approach in the Hindu Kush Himalayas region in South Asia, but also in West Africa is under finalization. And we are now rolling this out to additional regions and countries with particular focus in Africa. And another component of our Energy for Agri-Food work aims to promote direct use of geothermal energy that IRENA has been advocating with the support of practitioners from the Global Geothermal Alliance. The upcoming guidebook presents priority actions for powering agri-food value chains with geothermal heat and complemented with a series of capacity building activities that we have very recently started for policymakers to stimulate action on the ground. And we support it through various partnership structures. Beyond Food Initiative is one of those, and we have recently launched it with the United Arab Emirates for creating a platform for clean cooking, peer-to-peer learning, and entrepreneurship development with a highlight on women empowerment. We will continue putting our cross-sectoral energy access work in the center of our flagship off-grid event, which is called Off-Grid Renewable Energy Conference and Exhibition, IOREC, and which will take place this November in Nigeria as part of the Nigeria International Energy Transition Week. And ladies and gentlemen, let me also touch upon the more on the investment and finance dimension of energy transition, because a transformation of global energy system compatible with internationally agreed climate and development objectives requires a significant scale up in investments. IRENA's World Energy Transition Outlook suggests that cumulative investments of over $24 trillion should be redirected globally from fossil fuels to energy transition technologies till 2050, corresponding to an increase in energy transition investments from $1.8 trillion in 2019 to $4.4 trillion per year until 2050. However, I think our Director General also highlighted that point, that despite the continent's immense resource potential and fast-growing energy needs of the continent, Africa attracted only 2% of global renewable investments in the last decade. So there's definitely room for concrete action to stimulate investments in Africa for energy transition. And as part of our commitment to supporting countries to scale up the flow of energy transition investments, we have created two project facilitation platforms. One is the Energy Transition Financing Platform, ETAF, which was recently launched during COP27, and already Abu Dhabi Fund for Development and Masdar, they have committed funds for that. The idea is to create a $1 billion platform, and we have already funds pledged by ADFT, $400 million to kickstart it. There's another second platform, Climate Investment Platform, CIP, that we have created together with UNDP, Green Climate Fund, and Sustainable Energy for All. And through that platforms, we have several projects already registered, more than 300 projects already registered under the CIP, as well as several financing and investors also signed up to the platform. And those projects, they vary in size and investment ticket, but also at various stages of development. We provide also technical support to improve the project quality, but also try to matchmake them with those interested investors and financiers. And finally, let me invite you to mark your calendars for the upcoming International Energy Transition Week of Nigeria, which will be held from 31st of October to 4th of November later this year in Abuja, Nigeria. the importance is it brings together, it provides an umbrella for various events. I mean, especially most importantly for us, it will include the West Africa Investment Forum, IRENA's first sub-regional investment forum event in Africa. And through that platform, we aim to bring together leaders and industry partners, financing partners, to leverage the ability of decision makers to produce robust enabling environments for energy transition investments, as well as we are working with developers, private sector and finance communities to prepare bankable project pipelines and facilitate access to sustainable finance in West Africa region through our project facilitation platforms that I mentioned. The first ever investment investment forum will take place next week as G20 investment forum in Indonesia. So this will be the second investment forum, but first in Africa. So we are very much looking forward to meeting you there. And the week. This is a whole week of events, so it will also have ECOWAS Sustainable Energy Forum, as well as IREC, IRENA's off-grid event. The last 2 days of the week will be dedicated to this event. This is all I wanted to highlight in prep for the discussions today. And thank you for your attention, and I wish you all very fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Globos. And the next, Diala, floor is yours.
Thank you, Kenji. And good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today to present some of the findings of IRENA's work on the regional market analysis in Africa and its regions. But I just want to highlight before that based on the findings of this report, we are now developing briefs on policy and finance in the North and Sub-Saharan Africa with the support of Japan METI. And we thank you for your generous support for this important work. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this report finds that transitioning Africa's energy sectors to renewable energy holds vast potential to benefit national economies, strengthen industrialization objectives, and create jobs, while also ensuring environmental sustainability. All this is crucial in a continent that has contributed so little to the global carbon footprint. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a sobering reminder of the critical role energy plays in healthcare, sanitization, telecommunications, and resilient livelihoods. Yet, access to electricity and clean cooking remain an aspiration for many on the continent. Renewable energy has the vast potential to benefit last-mile users through its flexibility and cost-effectiveness in off-grid settings. Can we go to the next slide, please? Africa's energy landscape features a range of energy sources, from hydrocarbons and traditional biomass fuels to a variety of renewable energy technologies. The energy mix differs between countries, particularly between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, with North Africa using significantly more hydrocarbons. Bioenergy and waste remain the most widely used source of energy on the continent, accounting for over 40% of energy supply. This proportion of bioenergy reflects large gaps in access to modern energy, with some 906 million people in Sub-Saharan Africa continuing to rely on traditional biomass for cooking and for heating. The population without clean cooking access is in fact rising due to population growth and slow pace of clean cooking expansion with a significant social, environmental, and economic cost. Around 46% of people in Sub-Saharan Africa have access to electricity, with substantially lower rates at the sub-regional level. This vast gap in access to modern and sustainable energy is reflected in Africa's overall energy balance, with significant implications for the continent's economic, agricultural, and industrial activity. Even though the continent is home to a fifth of the world's population, so the fifth of the world's population live in Africa, Africa accounts for only 6% of global energy demand and only 3% of electricity demand. So 20% of the world's population are using only 6% of its energy demand and only 3% of its electricity. Can we go to the next slide, please? But as was mentioned already, the region is rich in renewable energy. On this slide, you see IRENA's resource maps for solar PV and wind on the left side. And you can see that the continent is blessed with a vast resource potential in solar, wind, hydropower, and geothermal energy. And falling costs are increasingly bringing renewables further within reach. But with the exception of hydropower, modern renewable energy, such as solar, wind, geothermal, and modern bioenergy, contribute only marginally to Africa's energy mix. So Africa accounts for less than 3% of the world's installed renewable-based capacity. And most of this is accounted for by hydropower, while existing capacity in other technologies, such as solar and wind, remains highly concentrated in a handful of countries. As you can see on the graph on the right, more than half of the solar installed capacity is in South Africa, and almost a quarter is in Egypt and Morocco. Together, these three countries account for more than 80% of the wind capacity of the continent. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as our DG mentioned, as you see in this figure, of the $2.8 trillion invested in renewable energy globally between 2000 and 2020, so in those 20 years, only 2% of these investments, equivalent to $60 billion, but this is also excluding large hydro, went to Africa, despite the continent's enormous potential and its needs. Over 90% of those investments were committed only in the past 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, which is a good sign. It shows that investments are picking up in the region. But at the same time, they were concentrated in only 14 countries. 75% of the investments between 2010 and 2020 went to only 4 countries: South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and Kenya. And this is because these countries offer favorable risk-return profiles because of their policy and institutional environment, their regulations, the access to finance in these countries, and other market characteristics such as the size of the market, the prospects, and the stability. In other economies, these enabling factors may not be as strong as those 4 countries. But it is interesting here to note that Africa's general project default rates are lower than in the rest of the world. Although the perception of risk is high, the actual default rates in Africa is much lower than the rest of the world. And this is because the continent has attractive and relatively safe financial environment, fiscal discipline, support from multilateral development banks, guarantees have all contributed to this achievement. This continent has also been the stage for financial creativity, from partial risk guarantees to liquidity facilities and breach of contract provisions, preparing the ground for the next wave of projects covering both utility scale and off-grid projects. Can we go to the next slide, please? In this slide, we see that these investments have been primarily driven by policy. You see here the policies adopted by region in Africa, but also you see that, as with the rest of the world, policies still focus on the power sector. Can we go to the next slide, please? In particular, structured procurement mechanisms, which include feed-in tariffs and auctions, or the competitive procurement of renewable energy, have been instrumental in attracting private investments in the power sector, especially when implemented as part of a basket of instruments together with financing, risk mitigation, and technical assistance, as has been done in the region. Egypt and Kenya, which are two of the top 4 destinations for investments in Africa, had feed-in tariffs, and they were the most successful in the continent based on the number of developed projects and total installed capacities resulting from feed-in tariffs. Auctions are another structured procurement mechanism that has been instrumental in attracting private investments in the region. Around 22 gigawatts of renewable energy were auctioned in Africa between 210 and 221. 60% of the auctioned capacity has been awarded, most of it in South Africa and Morocco. The remaining 40% were either delayed or cancelled. The competition in auctions has brought down prices, but prices are not the only objectives. Another strength of auctions, and which is very important in Africa, is their ability to achieve objectives beyond price, such as socioeconomic development goals and system integration. And we saw that in Morocco and South Africa, auctions were successful in building local industries and driving socioeconomic benefits. Auctions can also be designed to address context-specific risks. One well-known example of this is the Scaling Solar program, which was implemented in Ethiopia, Senegal, and Zambia. Can we go to the next slide, please? Investments in off-grid renewables has also grown across the continent as the adoption of standalone systems, mini-grids, and clean cooking solutions has grown. Between 2010 and 2020, Africa attracted over 70% of global investments in off-grid renewables, reflecting a dynamic sector that has expanded on the back of reducing technology costs, innovation in delivery models, and an increasing participation of the private sector. Yet, it is important to note that investments in energy access for both electricity and clean cooking remain alarmingly low and highly concentrated in a few regions and technologies compared to what is needed to achieve SDG 7 by 2030. A favorable policy environment remains a key precondition for scaling up investment flows in renewables and access, and also in non-access contexts. Can we go to the next slide, please? Our analysis in the report goes way beyond deployment and covers enabling policies such as national and regional commitments, measures that disincentivize investments in fossil fuels, foster innovation, and develop needed infrastructure. For example, major investments in new centralized and decentralized infrastructure will be needed, ideally guided by long-term national energy planning to ensure that they do not result in stranded assets or lock in fossil fuel investments that would be later phased out. Integrating renewables into the energy system also requires a conducive organization of the power sector, together with sector coupling policies to support electrification of end uses, which was highlighted as one of the main pathways for decarbonization. These policies and arrangements include appropriate electricity tariff structures, such as, for example, time of use tariffs, and other innovative solutions to support demand-side management. The energy transition in Africa will also change the way citizens consume, produce, and travel, impacting local and regional economies. Policies that support structural change are needed, and they must consider how regions depend on resources, commodity trade, and other economic characteristics. Such policies should embrace local value and labor, regional trade opportunities, and shared research and development to expand the economic value of the energy transition. Communities and businesses must be part of the process. Can we go to the next slide, please? For energy transitions to be just and inclusive, their links with society must be well understood. And this report analyzes the impacts of the energy transition on GDP, employment, and welfare. It shows that many of Africa's social, economic, health, and environmental problems can be solved by transitioning to an energy system based on renewables. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the analysis is based on scenarios comparison. So on the one hand, we have the planned energy scenario, in which we assume that government's current energy plans, their current policies and targets, including NDCs, are all implemented. But we also have a 1.5 degree scenario, which is compatible to staying within 1.5 degrees, which was presented by Gurbuz earlier. So this analysis finds that GDP under the 1.5 degree scenario for Africa, GDP will be higher by an average of 6.4% to 2050. Similarly, economy-wide employment is 3.5% higher on average in the 1.5 degree scenario. The energy sector will have at least 28 million jobs in 2050, with renewable energy jobs rising from more than 0.3 million today to 8 million in 2050. The 5 welfare dimensions analyzed, economic, social, environmental, distributional, and access, fare much better in the 1.5 degree scenario. But it is important to note that regionally, the magnitude of these effects obviously vary. So in terms of GDP, for example, they range from an average higher GDP by 2050 under the 1.5 scenario of 15%, almost 15% increase in Central Africa to only 1.6% in West Africa. And these regional differences are analyzed in the report. Of course, they vary based on the resources available, on the current dependencies that exist in the region, and on how much of the value chain can be localized. So finally, going to the way forward, can we go to the last slide, please? For all those benefits to materialize, the following will be required. We will need a comprehensive policy package that combines the pursuit of climate and environmental goals, economic development and job creation, and social equity and welfare for the society as a whole. So the energy transition in Africa cannot be viewed as a technological transition, and it cannot be viewed only to achieve climate goals. There are more important and pressing goals that can be achieved with the energy transition. Strong institutions and considerable coordination at the regional level are important, but importantly, and more, this is the most relevant point for our event today, is we stressed on the need for international cooperation in many areas, including investment and financing, technology exchange, and capacity building. And for that, the cooperation between Japan and Africa will be very crucial. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm here if you have any questions. Back to you, Kenji. Thank you.
Thank you, Diala, for your presentation. I now welcome Mr. Hoshino Masashi, Director, International Affairs Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Department, Agency for Natural Resources and Energy, METI. He shall be moderating the discussion on driving African energy transition through international cooperation to address opportunities and challenges. Please, Mr. Hoshino, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kato, and Excellency and dear colleagues from IRENA. We have excellent keynotes and comprehensive scene-setting presentations. Good morning and good afternoon. It's my great honor to welcome our distinguished panelists and guests to our special event today. I'm most pleased to moderate this important session. First, I'd like to introduce 6 distinguished panelists here with us online. We have Mr. Fatih Hanchi, Director General, National Agency for Energy Conservation from Tunisia, who has been in this position since June 2020. He graduated in mechanical engineering and has more than 22 years of experience in the field of energy efficiency. He has been actively involved in the reform of the energy sector in Tunisia and has contributed to the design, implementation, and the evaluation of energy efficiency programs in the country. Next, Engineer Sabel El Hadri, Director General for Evaluation, Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy from Egypt, whose role is following up all projects related to generation and transmission and distribution networks. Then, Mr. Dan Kithinji, Director of Renewable Energy, Ministry of Energy from Kenya, whose role is promoting use of renewable energy to enable the country meet its modern energy and encouraging the adoption of renewable energy technologies. Then Mr. Kadel Diop, Technical Advisor, National Agency of Renewable Energies from Senegal, who has been in this position since 2020 and mainly in charge of strategy, planning, and reporting of the renewable energy. Then Mr. Tony Imadua, CEO of the Seychelles Energy Commission and acting principal secretary for climate change and energy from the Ministry of Agriculture, Climate Change and Environment of Seychelles. The Commission is the body responsible for the regulation of the power sector, as well as the promotion of renewable energy and energy efficiency. And he has been involved with the formulation of the Seychelles Energy Policy 2010 to 2030. Then Ms. Mridula Mungura, Chief Executive Officer, Mauritius Renewable Energy Agency, who is responsible to promote renewable energy and create an environment conducive to the development of renewable energy and the renewable energy roadmap for Mauritius. Let me thank all panelists here for your participation. Before asking questions to you all, I'd like to provide brief introductory remarks to guide this session overall. As we heard IRENA's comprehensive presentation today, Africa can be the forefront of the global energy transition with its abundant renewable resources and a high potential for a cleaner future. Accelerating energy transition with introducing a high share of renewable energies is the center of action to achieve the climate goal. To further develop renewable energy, all panelists are invited to share respective countries' latest national plan, policy direction, and renewable energy development opportunities and challenges to realize their energy transitions that could be further developed with international cooperation and business activities. Speaking of cooperation between Africa and Japan, Ministry of Economy organized Japan-Africa Public-Private Economic Forum in Kenya last May. In the forum, the ministry declared 4 pillars towards further business cooperation between Africa and Japan, which includes greener economy. To achieve both global carbon neutrality and economic development at the same time, in other words, to achieve green growth, various and realistic energy transitions is essential. This could be applied to Africa, where we see huge potentiality of renewable energies while addressing social and economic needs, so that both public and private sector should act together. In this context, TICAD8 will be held later this week, and Japan is keen to cooperate with the African countries. Having said that, to advance our cooperation, now I'd like to hear from panelists about your thoughts and insights to drive the energy transition, also your perspectives on international cooperation and private sector participation on this agenda. After the round of panelist interventions, representatives of companies will be followed to present as concrete examples of activities to the energy transition in Africa. So I'd like to begin our discussion with the same question to all of panelists today to have the overview of the latest situation of each country. The first question goes like this. What is your country's national plan and target, and how your country is working to achieve the target for your transitioning your energy system towards the climate goals? What technologies and enabling environments are being or should be addressed to achieve the target? I'm going to ask this question to all panelists in order. Please turn on your camera when speaking. To ensure the smooth running of the event, I'd like to kindly ask all panelists keep your remarks within 4 minutes. The first speaker is Mr. Hanchi. The floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup. Allow me to speak in French. It's more comfortable for me. Merci beaucoup. Un peu l'expérience tunisienne en matière de transition énergétique. En fait, comme vous le savez, la Tunisie a mis en place une politique volontariste de maîtrise de l'énergie depuis les années 80, période où l'énergie était le moteur de l'économie avec un excédent de plus de 3 millions de TEP. Nous avons pensé à une politique de maîtrise de l'énergie et à travers cette politique-là, nous avons créé un tissu industriel et un tissu de services vraiment favorable pour développer la stratégie actuelle de transition énergétique. Pour ne pas être vraiment très long sur ce sujet-là, l'objectif de la Tunisie, l'objectif climatique et énergétique de la Tunisie est bien clair. Donc, on vise la réduction de l'intensité carbone de 45% à l'horizon de 2030 par rapport au niveau de 2010. Et pour les objectifs énergétiques, on vise la réduction de la demande d'énergie primaire de 30% en 2030 par rapport au niveau de 2010 et l'augmentation de la part des énergies renouvelables dans le mix électrique à 35%, moyennant des projets principalement éoliens et photovoltaïques. L'idée ici, c'est de travailler sur tous les aspects. Nous avons 3 types de régimes. Le régime des concessions pour les grands projets d'utilité, le régime des autorisations pour les projets moyens et le régime d'autoproduction, c'est une sorte d'économie d'énergie au sein des entreprises. Actuellement, en Tunisie, nous avons le tarif le moins bas, le plus bas au niveau de l'Afrique, avec 2,4 centimes de dollars le kilowattheure pour un projet de 200 mégawatts dans le sud tunisien. Un projet photovoltaïque mégawatt dans le sud tunisien. On vient de signer les 5 conventions du projet pour 500 mégawatts photovoltaïques et on attend la finalisation de la mise en place de ces projets en 2024. Aujourd'hui, la Tunisie est déterminée pour aller vers ce choix-là, le choix des énergies renouvelables, le choix de la transition énergétique. Et nous sommes aujourd'hui convaincus, plus que jamais, de la nécessité de travailler d'une manière collective avec les différents pays du continent africain et avec le Japon pour concrétiser ce type de projet, surtout que l'Afrique, qui englobe 17% de la population mondiale, ne bénéficie pas vraiment d'une bonne couverture des investissements dans ce domaine-là. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes convaincus pour travailler en commun pour concrétiser ce type de projet. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanchi. And thank you very much for hosting the TICAD8 event and also good cooperation with Japan. So next speaker is Engineer El Hadri. The floor is yours.
Morning, everybody. First, I thank the organizer to host me here. And it is my great pleasure to attend this meeting, and I wish this meeting will achieve its goals. From a long time, Egyptian electricity sector has started its transition to low carbon electricity sources. It relies basically on exploiting renewable energy sources and contribute significantly to improve energy efficiency. We issued the Integrated Sustainable Energy Strategy for 2035. It started to install about 42% of renewable energy. Now we are reviewing and updating the strategy by excluding the coal and replacing its capacity with renewable energy resources. In this context, Egypt has rich renewable energy resources, especially wind and solar power. We allocated about 5,200 square kilometer to renewable energy power plants to host about 77 gigawatt of renewable energy. To achieve our ambitious vision in utilizing the renewable energy resource, a lot of procedures have been taken and incentives offered to encourage private sector participation in sector projects. As a result, about 32 international and local investors were involved to implement the Imban solar park project, the largest one in the Middle East and Africa, located in one place, in Aswan, with total capacity of about 1,465 megawatts. The project won the best prize worldwide by the World Bank. In addition, we consider other different mechanisms such as EPC plus finance, projects, net metering, and the auction mechanism. In this regard, I would like to underline the local role of the government in creating an attractive environment for the private investment. As a result of this action, a great number of investors care confident Egyptian energy sector. Foreign and domestic investors have been encouraged to invest in the sector projects. The last prices we got under the whole schemes are $2 per kilowatt hour for solar and $3 per kilowatt hour for wind. The installed capacity for renewable energy reaches now about 6,100 gigawatts, including the hydropower projects, and will be about 10 gigawatt by 2024. In addition to above mentioned measures in the field of renewable energy, the sustainable energy transition will be enabled also by using energy efficiency measures. In this regard, during the last few years, the electricity sector in Egypt has taken the following measures to enhance energy efficiency in the supply side by building the mega projects like with Siemens, converted the single cycle power plant into combined cycle power plants, use of supercritical steam technology, and applying the programmed maintenance system for the components of the generation plants. Due to this measure, the fuel consumption reduced from 214 grams per kilowatt hour in 2016 to 180 grams per kilowatt hour in 2020. In addition, we are focusing on the improvement and upgrading the transmission and distribution network, including etc. high voltage substation, control center, as well as smart grid. Our strategy relies on transformation to smart grids, which will introduce to improve electricity efficiency to reduce carbon emission, as well as reduce the investment required to do infrastructure to electrical network. In addition to that, we have issued the second National Energy Efficiency Action Plan for the period 2018 to 2020 after the approval of the Supreme Energy Council. The plan includes different pillars to mention some institutional framework, securing financial mechanism, data gathering, and MRD systems. After the success of the second NAP, we are currently updating for another period to cope with new technology and space. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your details on policies of your country's renewable energy policies. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Kithinji. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share Kenya perspective. I hope I'm audible, and I will be taking you through what Kenya has been doing for the energy transition. And I will say that Kenya welcomes the opportunity to share some perspective during this very timely and relevant side event. As regards the pathway to energy transition, a number of decades ago, Kenya took a bold decision to prioritize renewable energy at a time when it was not very fashionable to do so. The decision has paid off, and as a result, 73% of our installed capacity of electricity generation is from renewable energy sources. At the moment, our generational capacity is, with what is dispatched to the grid, 90% is generated from renewable energy sources. Kenya has also made significant achievement in electricity access over the past 7 years, and it has raised its connectivity from that percent in 2013 to over 75% in 2021. This success has been driven by a robust policy framework and regulatory framework that enabled both private and public investment in the power sector to thrive. With an installed generation capacity of slightly over 3 gigawatts and a pipeline generation capacity of 2 gigawatts, Kenya is firmly on the pathway to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 7. However, in spite of the progress made in the electrification, dramatic action is required to accelerate the development and deployment of clean cooking fuels and technologies, which has lagged behind. As regards clean cooking, the government of Kenya affirms clean cooking as an important and priority component of the development agenda. We have developed a bioenergy strategy, which is guiding the process of universal access to modern cooking energy. And last year, the country also developed an energy compact on clean cooking, which was prepared and submitted at high-level dialogue on energy. The compact targets a multi-pronged approach that focuses on key aspects of current cooking sector value chain, fostering conducive enabling environment, strengthening the supply chain, and stimulating demand of clean cooking solution and addressing pertinent cross-cutting challenges. The country has been doing several actions towards energy transition, and this includes the implementation of multiple projects to support the energy transition and net zero objective in the energy sectors, which include the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, which seeks to upscale acceleration of energy in the underserved counties, which are all in the off-grid areas. And also it has got a clean cooking component and water pumping in the 14 counties. We are also promoting climate-friendly cooking in Kenya by enhancing consumer demand of improved cook stoves and market environment. We are also involved in promotion of institutional and household level biogas project chain so that they can be able to participate in that sector. Finally, the country has been upscaling the green energy sources from renewable energy sources, including solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal sources. The enabling and the framework is being driven by a very robust policy and regulatory framework. We have an energy policy of 2018 and Energy Act, which were enacted in 2019. And we have also developed several policies to support these policies. We have the Kenya National Electrification Strategy in place. We have the National Bioenergy Strategy finalized in 2020, and the Kenya National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Strategy. To accelerate the universal access to energy services, we are also in the final stage of development the renewable energy auctions policy. We're also reviewing the feed-in tariff policy, the captive power policy, and the power procurement guidelines. As regards to what is happening now to accelerate the energy transition, the country is formulating a white paper to guide the energy sector, and it is already in the final stages of the finalization. The white paper aims to bring coherence, clarity, focus, synergies, and guide in accelerating sustainable energy provision while addressing overarching sector challenges. As regards access to finance, we have dedicated the policy and financing interventions which aims at strengthening the adoption of clean cooking solutions, addressing affordability and market access challenges to inform investment and decision in energy sector. Kenya also continues to partner with both bilateral and multilateral partners with a view to leverage renewable energy technology transfer and funding in support of energy projects and programs. In conclusion, it is our considered view that there is need to deepen international cooperation to optimize synergies, experience sharing in order to accelerate the energy transition in a nuanced contextual manner, ensuring that no one is left behind. I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Clean cooking and also energy access is another important point that we should recognize. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Mr. Diop from Senegal. The floor is yours, Mr. Diop.
Merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné cette parole-là. Bonjour à tout le monde. Merci vraiment pour cette invitation, pour cet exposé qu'on va faire sur le Sénégal, la situation du Sénégal. Alors, peut-être juste pour rentrer dans le sujet, je pense que ce qu'on peut dire d'ores et déjà, c'est que la politique, en fait, en matière de transition énergétique au niveau du Sénégal est contenue effectivement dans plusieurs documents stratégiques. Donc, on peut partir justement du plan Sénégal émergent qui est le document de politique macroéconomique du gouvernement, en passant également par la contribution déterminée au niveau national, mais également sur des documents essentiels et strictement purement sectoriels, qui est la feuille de route à l'horizon 2035 du secteur de l'électricité, mais également la lettre de politique de développement du secteur de l'énergie, et son plan d'action, mais également d'autres documents beaucoup plus sectoriels, notamment le plan stratégique de développement des énergies renouvelables de l'Agence nationale pour les énergies renouvelables. Mais ce n'est pas le seul acteur actuellement au niveau du Sénégal à développer justement des énergies renouvelables. On pourrait peut-être y revenir beaucoup plus en détail, peut-être en termes chiffrés. Alors, l'objectif global en matière d'énergie renouvelable au niveau du Sénégal a été fixé dans sa lettre de politique à 18% à l'horizon 2023. Mais il faut dire que déjà, quand on a fait la revue à mi-parcours en 2021, on était déjà à presque 27%, voire peut-être même 30% de la puissance installée qui est représentée par les énergies renouvelables. Et ce qu'il faut dire là aussi, pour répondre également à votre question, les principales technologies qui sont mises en œuvre dans ce cadre de figure-là, c'est effectivement le solaire photovoltaïque et l'éolien. On a quand même pas mal de centrales et ceci a démarré depuis pratiquement l'avènement en 2010 justement du cadre juridique et réglementaire du secteur des énergies renouvelables, notamment avec les lois de 2010. Mais ce qu'il faut dire, c'est qu'à l'instant actuel, toutes ces politiques et tous ces documents de cadre juridique ont été réformés, condensés dans un seul référentiel qui est actuellement la réforme du secteur de l'énergie à travers le code de l'électricité qui a été adopté en 2021. Mais cette réforme n'est pas unique, ce n'est pas que ça qu'on a entreprise comme réforme. On a également entreprise, et c'est important de le signaler ici, la réforme également du régulateur du secteur de l'électricité à travers également une loi de 2021. Il y a également pas mal de choses qui sont en train d'être mises en œuvre, notamment l'un des objectifs majeurs, c'est l'amélioration de l'offre d'électricité. Comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, autant sur la partie production, mais également sur la partie transport et distribution. Le Sénégal a beaucoup réalisé en matière d'extension des réseaux de transport et de distribution. d'extension et de densification de ces deux réseaux, ce qui permettrait in extenso en fait de pouvoir également adresser la question du West African Power Pool qu'on est en train également de mener avec les autres pays de la sous-région pour positionner également le Sénégal en matière également comme pays exportateur également d'énergie. On a également un autre objectif au niveau du secteur qui englobe également le développement des énergies renouvelables, c'est l'accès universel à l'électricité partout et pour tous. Et ça, on le vise en l'horizon 2025. Et ça, on a quand même un plan opérationnel qui est actuellement en cours de mise en œuvre et qui a déjà fait l'objet d'une table ronde des bailleurs, mais il est clair que jusqu'ici, on continue effectivement à recevoir des offres à ce niveau-là. Ce qu'il faut dire là aussi, pour ne pas également rater cette opportunité, c'est que le Sénégal a quand même bénéficié d'une expérience importante avec la SFI, qui est la branche technique de la Banque mondiale, dans ce cadre-là justement du processus d'appel d'offres qui permettait justement de pouvoir doper l'offre d'électricité en matière de production privée à injecter directement dans le réseau, ce qui nous a permis effectivement d'atteindre des coûts du kilowattheure qui étaient extrêmement compétitifs au niveau de la sous-région ouest africaine, notamment peut-être pratiquement les coûts en tout cas les plus faibles. D'autres réformes sont également en train d'être, en tout cas, sont déjà prises au niveau du secteur. On promeut l'autoproduction, l'autoconsommation privée à travers justement l'installation de centrales propres à des industries, mais également à des ménages, mais également au niveau de tout ce qui est production au réseau. Ces systèmes d'autoconsommation peuvent également, ont la possibilité, notamment pour la partie privée pure, d'injecter leur surplus de production au niveau du réseau interconnecté. Et ça, on a également défini des feed-in tarifs. Je pense que l'un des présentateurs également l'a bien défini. On a défini effectivement des tarifs d'achat du surplus au niveau des différentes technologies, notamment le solaire et la biomasse. Et ça, à travers justement tout type de clients dont justement on a déjà la typologie au niveau de Sénélec. On a également une autre mesure importante, et ça c'est en lien également avec la réforme sur tout ce qui est fiscalité. Aujourd'hui au Sénégal, pratiquement tout ce qui est équipement de production d'énergie renouvelable, solaire, éolien et biogaz est exonéré de TVA. Ça également, c'est vraiment les grosses réformes qu'on est en train de mettre en œuvre au niveau du pays. Il faut dire là aussi peut-être juste que le Sénégal actuellement a plusieurs programmes, comme je l'ai dit, hein, c'est vrai, il y a la partie centrale, mais il y a la partie également programme d'énergie renouvelable pure qui est en train d'être mise en œuvre par l'Agence nationale pour les énergies renouvelables, mais également par tout ce qui est privé à ce niveau-là. Juste pour donner un chiffre à ce niveau, on peut dire que là, en termes de solaire, en 2021, on est pratiquement à 226 MW sur la puissance installée. Et en éolien, on est à 158,7 MW en éolien également dans la puissance installée. Ce qu'il faut rajouter en dernier lieu, c'est que tous ces objectifs et toutes ces réalisations, pour le moment, ne sont du fait que pratiquement tout ce qui est puissance installée connectée au réseau. Ce qui est dans le hors réseau est encore naturellement extrêmement large. Et pour juste donner une idée, actuellement, tous les programmes mis en œuvre au niveau par l'Agence nationale pour les énergies renouvelables à l'état actuel des choses s'élèvent pratiquement à 15 MW et compte tenu de tout ce qui est puissance installée également par les autres parties prenantes du secteur. Je vais peut-être juste m'en arrêter à ce niveau-là et vous redonner la parole en attendant peut-être d'autres développements. Merci encore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diop, for your comprehensive comments. So the next speaker is Mr. Imaduwa from Seychelles. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you for providing me this opportunity to present. Just a minute, I'll put the camera on. Yeah. So for giving me the opportunity to speak, as you are aware, Seychelles, like all small island states, faces a number of challenges when it comes to the energy sector. One of the main challenges is most of our energy needs has to be imported through the importation of fossil fuel. And Seychelles is like all the other small islands that we depend a lot on imported fossil fuel. And it is because of this relationship, I believe that's one of the main priority objective of our energy policy is to reduce that dependence on fossil fuel, on imported fossil fuel. So for us, our main goal is to strengthen our energy security and look into diversifying our energy mix, mainly by focusing on renewable energy. And for these reasons, as a result of the oil crisis back in 2007, 2008, the country worked on a policy which I supported as well. We looked at integrating more renewable energy and developing the energy efficiency sector. So the target set in the policy was 15% of renewable energy by 2030. The commission that was set up was given the mandate to lead this process, and we worked on a number of projects as well as looking at the legislative framework. And in 2012, we established the Energy Act, which paved the way for third-party ability to generate as well, alongside with the main
So, Mr. Imadua,
back then we focused more on rooftop.
So unfortunately, it seemed the connection, his connection lost. So then I will move on to the next speaker while we address the technical difficulties. So next speaker is Miss Mangura from Mauritius. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hushinho, for the floor. Hello to everyone. Thank you to IRENA and TICAD for organizing such a platform. I think this conversation and this platform comes in a very good time when we want to move further into the energy transition in Africa. So talking about Mauritius, Mauritius in fact has taken a big step in the energy transition. Last year, the government has announced pre-COP26 a very ambitious target of increasing renewable energy from 40% to 60% by 2030, and along the same timeline for the phase out of coal completely from our electricity production. In fact, actually, Mauritius is dependent by 60% on its electricity production on heavy fuel oil and coal. And in fact, this is why they want to phase out coal to be able to decrease our import bill on fossil fuels. And in so doing, we rely a lot on renewable energy to be able to cater for this electricity mix generation. Besides renewable energy, we are also looking at biomass, which is another type of renewable energy that Mauritius has been using since very long. We also intend to increase our percentage of biomass usage for electricity production to phase out coal by most of the IPPs in Mauritius. There is, in Mauritius, renewable energy mostly consists of solar and wind, onshore wind. But in fact, Mauritius owns 2.3 million kilometers square of economic exclusive zone in the Indian Ocean. And this is why in the roadmap that has been reviewed, the roadmap for renewable energy in Mauritius that has been reviewed this year in May 2022, it is also looking forward to explore the technologies of offshore wind, wave, and tidal, owing to this 2.3 million kilometer square of EEZ. And in that, definitely we look forward to the assistance of IRENA and Japan, who has wide expertise in offshore wind, tidal, and wave, to be able to develop it. There has been up to now no feasibility study done island-wide or across the EEZ. And recently, Mauritius has become beneficiary of a joint fund from the UN, an SDG joint fund from the UN, in which we are looking at how we will be able to do feasibility studies for offshore wind, which could hopefully contribute to our 60% electricity mix on the long run. Mauritius is also looking at upgrading its grid. We are a small island dependent on ourselves, very much like my colleague in Seychelles has mentioned. So we need to upgrade our grid to increase our resilience and grid security. And in fact, this is why we are looking at the spartaning of the grid, and also to be able to integrate more and more renewable energy. As we know, renewable energy is very variable in nature, and we need more and more grid accessories to be able to handle this variability from renewable energy. On this, I hope you all very fruitful deliberation, and I hope that we move forward together in achieving a greener Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mungura, for your excellent comments. So we now have comments from all panelists on the first question, on the overview of the latest situation of each country. So then let me also ask each panelist different questions based on the circumstances in each country. So please make your intervention within 3 minutes. Since I was informed that Ms. Mungura of Mauritius needs to leave this session earlier due to the time schedule conflicts, I'd like to invite her first. So I'd like to hear your opinion, Ms. Mungura. Since Mauritius is also an island country like Japan and Seychelles. So Japanese Ministry of Economy has been supporting the feasibility studies by Japanese companies for introduction of ocean energy in Mauritius, as you said before. So as an island country, what are the opportunities and challenges in the development of further renewable energy, especially of ocean energy? How can international partnership contribute to achieve its energy transition in your country? Ms. Mungura, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, moderator, Mr. Hushino, for the question. In fact, it is very much in context to what I have spoken earlier about Mauritius having access to 2.3 million kilometers of the Indian Ocean, which is a huge part of very resourceful renewable energy. In fact, there has been studies, very minor studies that have been done in part of the island, so in the south of the island, but now we are looking forward at doing feasibility studies, let's say island-wide, and across the Indian Ocean area, which belongs to Mauritius. So definitely we have to probe these ventures, because renewable energy, when we look at it, Mauritius is an island. It is very scarce in terms of land, and we cannot keep on exploring only land-based technologies. So at some point, we will have to look into offshore wind, offshore tidal, offshore wave. And over time, these renewable energy technologies have proven their efficiency, they have proven their scientific value also. And we're very much looking forward to collaboration with countries such as Japan, who has very high expertise in such fields. And definitely, as Marina, we look very forward to having feasibility studies done, because these feasibility studies not only show the potential of such renewable energy technologies, but they also increase the bankability of project. When they show the efficiency and the bankability of such project, this attracts investors to Mauritius. And as we know, Mauritius is very dependent on the private sector investment to be able to go ahead with the development of renewable energy projects. So it is very important to demystify these renewable energy technologies by doing feasibility studies to be able to prove their potential and impact in Mauritius. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your excellent comments. Thank you very much. So I'd like to back to Mr. Imadua of Seychelles. So I hope the connection recovers very well. So Mr. Imadua, as the second question is, as Seychelles is an island country surrounded by ocean like Mauritius and Japan, what are the opportunities and challenges in the development of further renewable energy, including ocean energy, same as the question as to Mauritius? Also, how can you describe the importance of business sectors' involvement to achieve its energy transition in your country? The floor is yours, Mr. Imadua.
Thank you very much, Oshimo. Sorry about earlier, some problem. I mean, Seychelles is not blessed with, put it that way, renewable energy potential, especially firm renewable energy potential. We have a very high potential of solar energy, which of course has its technical challenges, and for us this is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to further deployment of renewable energy on a small grid like Seychelles. The challenges of integrating variable renewable energy onto the grid is one of the biggest challenge, and for us is basically focus on how do we resolve that. So a lot of effort is being done in terms of strengthening the grid, modernization of the grid, looking at other technologies such as storage to increase and the penetration of PV. But also, in addition to promoting more solar project, we also are looking at the marine environment, which have a huge potential in addressing the energy challenges of small island state. I mean, Seychelles is surrounded by 1.3 million square kilometers of water, which are untapped potential, which we need to look into, and definitely something that we're keeping an eye close on. There are potential for offshore wind, looking at ocean thermal conversion technologies, wave, tidal. So we're really keeping an eye on these sort of technologies that will help in meeting our energy need. But for us to do that, as we all know, development of renewable energy is very costly, and this is important why the private sector and business sector needs to come in, and for us to do that as a country, we need to focus on creating the enabling environment that allows for the private sector to participate, to give them that confidence to come in and support the country in their transition to a low carbon energy sectors. And for this reason, we are currently now revising the energy legislation of the countries, looking at different form of regulation that will allow private sector to come in. For example, we're looking at developing the IPP regulation, the licensing regulation, and also we're looking at the distributed energy generation legislation, which will help to create that environment. And in addition to complement the legislative framework, we are currently now restructuring the energy sector of the country, basically the institutional restructuring from the ministry side to the regulator and also to the utility. That will create sort of an enabling environment for private sector to come in, but as well to accelerate our deployment of renewable energy and energy efficiency in the country. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your great comments. We now understand your challenges and also efforts for valuable renewable energy deployment in your country. Thank you very much. So then I'd like to move to the question to Mr. Hanchi. This question goes to you. Tunisia is the host of the TICAD8. Thank you very much. And what do you see the most important thing for advancing Tunisia's energy transition with having an international cooperation, especially making use of the TICAD8 framework? And also Tunisia has potential to develop a renewable energy project like PV, and considering its geographic character with the significant solar radiation. What role can international cooperation like with Japan and any other countries and business activities play specifically in relation to increasing higher share of renewable energy sources in your country? The floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. En fait, le point commun entre les différents pays de l'Afrique, y compris la Tunisie, c'est le financement. C'est comment utiliser les moyens internationaux de financement des projets renouvelables et comment rendre les projets bancables. Je crois que le Japon, il a beaucoup de choses à dire dans ce domaine-là et je crois qu'il y aura peut-être une forte coopération dans ce domaine afin de concrétiser des projets renouvelables. Également, il y a un point très important que je dois le souligner, malgré qu'il n'est pas en concordance avec la question, c'est que pour les pays africains, il y a une grande divergence entre l'Afrique du Nord et les pays subsahariens en termes d'accès à l'énergie électrique. On parle aujourd'hui de plus de 600 millions d'Africains qui n'ont pas accès à l'énergie. Et donc, il y a une grande bataille d'accès à l'énergie qui doit se faire en parallèle avec la stratégie de transition énergétique. Et je crois que la Tunisie elle a beaucoup de choses à dire si on parle dans ce domaine-là, étant donné que la Tunisie actuellement, on est à 99,8% de taux de couverture du pays par le réseau électrique. Aujourd'hui, je crois que ce qu'il faut peut-être prévoir, on ne souligne pas assez au niveau continental et international la nécessité de travailler en commun pour résoudre ou pour faire face à des défis, des enjeux importants comme les enjeux de la transition énergétique. Aujourd'hui, je crois que le Japon, il peut faire, il peut jouer le rôle pour accompagner les pays africains dans la mise en œuvre des projets de transition énergétique, dans la création d'un tissu industriel adéquat, notamment pour tout ce qui est CSP et éolien, dans le développement d'une offre de services qui doit répondre aux besoins du développement de la transition énergétique. Et à mon sens, un événement périodique comme le TICAD est un excellent moyen pour concrétiser des projets. Mais également, je crois qu'il est nécessaire aujourd'hui de prévoir des réunions préliminaires ou des ateliers préliminaires sur la question de la transition énergétique afin de préparer des projets vraiment concrets et bancables. Et je crois prévoir ces ateliers avec les structures régionales qui opèrent dans le domaine de la transition énergétique, ça va donner des résultats vraiment intéressants. Merci.
Thank you very much for your great comments. Also, thank you again for hosting TICAD8 event in your country and having a good cooperation with Japan. So next, I have another question to Engineer El Hadri. Egypt is the host of COP27 this November, another important event this year. As Director General of IRENA mentioned in his opening remarks, it's important to focus on action. How do you see your country's roles to promote actions for the global energy transition towards the climate goal in the renewable energy point of view for the coming COP27? Also, it seems many companies, including Japanese ones, are quite interested in the potentiality of producing green hydrogen and green ammonia in your country. Could you share with us your views on the trend and any expectation and ambition for such game-changing technologies like green hydrogen and green ammonia? The floor is yours.
It was pleasure. Egypt welcomes the progress achieved at the last conference, but COP26 in Glasgow. Most of the aspects that we addressed, COP27 Sharm el-Sheikh Egypt seeks to build on what was achieved in Glasgow and to benefit from the political momentum that provide to achieve balanced progress on negotiation tracks. COP27 Egypt will stress that the current stage should be together for implementation stage after the conclusion of the agreement on the majority of the negotiation text. Balance between mitigation and adaptation, as stated in the Paris Agreement, is essentially in addition to raising ambition and the collective action to expedite the approval process for the collective goals of adaptation, which is priority for developing economies. Africa has a huge amount of energy resources, both in terms of renewable energy and fossil fuel, that could provide modern energy access for all Africa. Africa is the world's largest treasure trove of clean energy resources, and they have an important strategic position in the global clean development. We should work together in order to supply the renewable energy opportunity in Africa to achieve our goals towards energy transition, not only in Africa, but also for the benefit of the neighbor countries through electrical interconnection. It's worth to mention that various efforts has been strengthened by the international and regional institutions to push forward the works achieved in African development development. Many initiatives have been adopted for the purpose. In this context, Egypt is working closely with the main African parties and initiatives. We affirm that this numerous initiatives in Africa aims to promote renewable energy, sustainability, and infrastructure development projects. Egypt looks forward to the integration and the cooperation of this initiative for the benefit of all African countries. The regard of hydrogen. Recently, we have been focusing on innovative technologies that will help us in our path towards energy transition, such as waste to energy, e-mobility, smart grids, water desalination, using renewable energies and energy storage. But in particular, we have taken significant steps in aim at exploring the potential and developing hydrogen power. Green hydrogen may be an effective way to secure the production of renewable energy plants that depend on national conditions, but apply the sun and wind, whose intensity can change, affecting the production of electricity. In particular, terms hydrogen makes it possible to store excess electricity produced at a certain times and return it later. A good alternative for stabilizing national electricity grids, where most of the countries are increasingly relying on renewable energy their electrification strategies. A lot of measures have been taken to develop hydrogen in Egypt, such as setting a roadmap for future steps for using hydrogen, which includes preparing a national strategy for hydrogen production, studying the opportunities for mobilizing the hydrogen industry in Egypt. Two, in addition, a number of companies have submitted offers for cooperation projects that are currently being studied, and a number of international government partners have offered to assist Egypt in preparing a national strategy in the field of hydrogen, and this is also being studied. In this regard, you are welcome to cooperate with Japanese companies regarding the using of hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I hope the coming COP27 will be a successful event. Thank you very much. So next, then I'd like to hear from your comments, Mr. Kithinji. So Kenya is well endowed with renewable energy resources, especially geothermal energy, where Japan has been cooperating with Kenya. So there is a new possibility of further geothermal development for direct use applications for industrial and rural development, such as greenhouse and aquaculture heating. So what partnership and investment are needed for geothermal energy, especially for a direct use project? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Japan for the investment and the partnership in the development of geothermal, which has been ongoing for some time in Kenya. And I mentioned earlier in my comments that geothermal is one of the renewable energy sources which has been helping Kenya achieve the transition we're talking about. As regards the partnerships, before I even talk about partnership, I want to mention that but the development area of geothermal has been basically generation of the electricity for use, the use of steam to generate electricity, which I mentioned earlier, and we have over 800 megawatts of generation from geothermal as per now. But there's been limited awareness on the potential benefits of direct use, and this is the area among policymakers, entrepreneurs, and communities. This is a new area we are keen to develop, and we look at it, the partnership we see. One, maybe the regional partnerships. We have had countries near Ethiopia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Tanzania, and others who have potential, and they have been coming to Kenya to learn and get expertise on how to exploit these resources. So we could have such a consortium and partnership in the promotion of direct use of geothermal energy. We also see the use by industrialists, entrepreneurs, that kind of partnership can also be created where every consumers can come on board to take advantage of the geothermal resources to generate heat to power their processes. They can come maybe through industrial parks nearby where there is that, especially in Kenya, it's in the Rift Valley. There's a move to have industrial parks around those areas which are not very far from the sources so that they can benefit and they can form a partnership to exploit that. We also see the communities and the entrepreneurs in the area, they can also come together so that they can be able to assess eating services if they, for their activities, and also come power their greenhouses and milk processing enterprises, among others, where it is required. It's possible for them to come and take advantage of the direct use. This can be a source of all year round revenue stream for community and job creation, and they can be able to assess that heat for all their requirements. As per regards investments and financing, we see the opportunities of de-risking the exploration activities so that we can extend the use for direct use. We also need maybe to assign varied costing of geothermal heat power to be able to drive the direct use part of it. And we also might require a master plan to guide the direct use of geothermal heat going forward. Other things we might look at is trying to upscale the exploration of the resources, because at the moment we are using less than a tenth of the potential, and we see that this can be accelerated so that we can get more use for direct use of geothermal resources in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kithinjis, for your informative answer. So I will look forward to further international cooperation on geothermal energy, especially for direct use in this on this agenda. So thank you very much. So lastly, I'm very sorry for keeping you waiting, Mr. Diop. As presented by IRENA, cooperation on regional clean energy development has been conducted like the West African Clean Energy Corridor with IRENA. So how does Senegal see and plan to secure the supply stability in pursuing further developing renewable energy resources with balancing with natural gas, LNG, while Senegal is increasing its electricity access with making use of such regional cooperation partnership? The floor is yours, Mr. Diop.
Merci encore, Monsieur Rochinon. Merci également à tout le monde. Effectivement, le Sénégal actuellement est pays producteur effectivement de pétrole et de gaz. Effectivement, le gaz constitue là aussi une énergie de transition pour le Sénégal naturellement, et c'est bien considéré. On apprécie à sa juste valeur et hautement effectivement la coopération avec le Japon. Et effectivement, nous on compte encore une fois de plus développer cette collaboration, notamment sur justement cette initiative de corridor ouest africain. Il est clair qu'effectivement, cela interpelle justement encore quelques enjeux et opportunités de développement des énergies renouvelables, notamment sur la partie stabilité du réseau et également tout ce qui est dispositif de stockage, sur la production interconnectée au réseau, et naturellement par le switch carrément de notre service de dispatching, mais de production également en système intelligent, donc en smart grid, naturellement. On souhaiterait également accentuer là aussi la coopération avec le Japon, naturellement, sur tout ce qui est offshore, parce que comme les plateformes pétrolières et gazières se trouvent effectivement en haute mer, il est important là aussi, effectivement, de pouvoir continuer à développer les énergies renouvelables offshore à ce niveau-là, notamment avec l'éolien, mais également la marémotrice. Également, en termes de diversification des énergies renouvelables, on espère là aussi pouvoir bénéficier encore de la coopération avec le Japon, si nécessaire, sur tout ce qui est technologie biomasse, mais également technologie en termes de petite hydroélectricité. Mais on connaît également la qualité des équipements japonais, notamment en ce qui concerne, par exemple, tout ce qui est dispositif de conservation, notamment avec les chambres froides, mais également avec les dispositifs de pompage solaire naturellement pour améliorer la partie irrigation de nos périmètres. Mais quand je parle moi de pompage solaire, je parle vraiment de pompage solaire durable, c'est-à-dire qui tiendrait compte autant pour moi de la durabilité de la ressource hydrique effectivement qu'on pompe au niveau de nos aquifères. Donc ça pour moi c'est extrêmement important et je réitère là aussi la position du Sénégal à pouvoir continuer la collaboration effectivement sur le corridor ouest africain et toutes sortes également d'autres initiatives enclenchées autant au niveau de la sous-région, mais surtout avec des partenaires privilégiés comme le Japon. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diop, for your excellent comments. So I thank again all the panelists for your contribution to the discussion and all the excellent comments. So now I'd like to invite Japanese and the African private sector to present their views on how they can make contributions to promoting the energy transition with their business activities. We have 4 presenters in this session. Mr. Takahiro Miyamoto from Toyota Tsusho Corporation, Mr. Reda Hamadown from Nareva, Mr. Motomu Kubota from Mitsui Corporation, and Mr. Jeffrey Ronald from Oxygen Limited. So let me thank all of you for your participation. So since the event is running with 20 minutes delayed, so I'd like to kindly ask you, all of you, for your intervention within 3 minutes each. So first, I am glad to have Miyamoto-san. So we'd like to you to introduce several examples of Toyota Tsusho's renewable energy business, like solar-powered desalination plant in Tunisia, and also PV plant in Senegal. So without further, so please make your interventions to be within 3 minutes. Miyamoto-san, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, your introduction, Mr. Hoshino. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, bonjour, and bon dia. My name is Takahiro Miyamoto from Toyota Tsusho Corporation. I'm very happy to make our presentation here in Tunisia. Today's presentation from Toyota Tsusho is to share our activity for better electricity by photovoltaic solar power. You see in the screen the words of "with Africa for Africa." This is our business philosophy. The activity we are presenting today is no exception. With Africa for Africa. Next, please. Toyota Tsusho Corporation is an investment and logistic and trading arm in Toyota Group. We have almost 65,000 employees, but notably 1/3 employee is in Africa. We'd like to be like that for with Africa for Africa. Next, please. Africa is a name of a region. Obviously, each country has each circumstance. Each country has each difficulty in electricity sector as well. Our business starts from listening to the voices in the ground to understand such unique challenge. For example, in some countries, they are forced to import very expensive electricity. They wish to generate power themselves for cheaper and stable power generation independently. We analyze each challenge and discuss with the related stakeholders for solutions. And we implement them together in the manner of with Africa for Africa. Our such activity are supported by METI initiative. Next, please. We'd like to go through quickly a part of our project in Tunisia and Senegal. Both are supported by METI program. Firstly, Tunisia. Let us look at their challenge. In Tunisia, water resource is very limited. Therefore, they need a desalination technology to create water. However, which consume a lot of electricity. Indeed, more than 50% of O&M cost is electricity. Furthermore, Tunisia heavily depends on gas power. The majority of gas is imported from the neighboring country. The gas price has been in a trend to increase. The situation results in higher electricity cost and a higher water cost in the end. Now we are engaged in the study to find a solution by seawater desalination powered by solar power for stable and affordable water supply. This is our initiative with Tunisia for Tunisia. Secondly, Senegal study. They have a plan to replace existing costly diesel power by gas, expecting domestic gas production in 2023. However, some diesel power stations cannot be replaced due to an inaccessibility to gas pipeline. Our study looked at such diesel power station. Solution will be to construct new solar power station nearby to reduce the diesel power use. We also propose battery system for grid stability as well. This is our initiative with Senegal and for Senegal. We currently make a similar project development in other countries such as Kenya, Angola, Benin, and Burkina Faso in the same manner with Africa for Africa. That is our state-to-show cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to sorry.
Thank you, Miyamoto-san, for your presentation. So next we invite Mr. Hamdan. Nareva is active in Morocco's renewable energy development, especially in the wind power. So today he will give us a presentation on its contribution to the energy transitions in Africa through his company's business experience of renewable energy development in Morocco. And I expect to have your thoughts on the possibility of international cooperation with Japan and other countries. So Mr. Hamdan, please, now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Hoshino. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for your invitation to this important panel. As you said, Nareva is an African energy provider based in Morocco, and sees that this mission to be a green transition partner to all stakeholders in Africa, and as such is committed to a green African future. Next slide. Next slide. So Nareva is the largest private renewable African IPP. It's also the largest private energy provider in Morocco, with a production capacity of above 3.5 gigawatts, 60% of which is in renewable energy. It also develops, operates, and invests in power generation and water cycle management. And since its inception, has invested almost $6 billion in energy assets, and it has benefited. Next slide. From its affiliation to one of the biggest investment funds in Africa, Al Mada, which is present in 24 countries. Next slide, please. So Al Mada is present in 24 countries in Africa and present in financial services with the Tijari Wafa Bank, and also Wafa Insurance, telecommunications with Inouï, and mining with Managem. Next slide. Nareva today has a number of international partners, as Mr. Hoshino has mentioned, most notably in SAFIEC, with the Japanese Mitsui and NG. So it's a joint venture between us and NG and Mitsui. We also have a joint venture in Dakhla with NG, and we also partner with Enel, the Italian company, in NEG PM. Next slide. So our portfolio is mostly renewable energy and mostly wind farms, with 2,000 megawatts in wind assets, including Tarfaya, which at the time of award was one of the biggest wind farms in the world at 300 megawatts. We have also branched out outside of Morocco in Tunisia, where we won with our partner NG 120 megawatts in Tunisia with the Gassa solar farm in PV. Next slide. As you know, the energy context is moving fastly these days. And one of the most important challenges for an IPP like us is the decreasing cost, the decreasing LCOEs of renewables. As you know, the PV and LCOE has decreased by more than 85% in the last 10 years. And the wind onshore has decreased, LCOE has decreased by 56%. So this is a challenge for us because our main, all other IPPs, our main product is getting commoditized, but it also opens new opportunities and forces us to move up in the value chain and look at industrial opportunities. Next slide. One of the most important opportunities that this increased competitiveness of renewable energy opens up to us is green industrialization, most notably by bringing energy-intensive industries closer to renewable sites, so we can imagine to institute in Africa, in Morocco, net zero export zone, fully powered up by abundant, reliable, and highly competitive green electricity that then we sell to corporate PPAs, because the value proposition of countries like ours is to be able to provide low-cost and low-carbon green electrons to the industry, helping them significantly reduce their carbon footprint, and then open for them new export markets like Europe, which will, institute the CBAM, the carbon tax at its border in 2026. So industrials will have the obligation in order to export without paying a tax to be below a certain carbon footprint. And then we're helping Morocco position itself as the premier regional clean exporting platform. Other area of growth, green molecules, meaning green hydrogen and green ammonia. We know that Japan is very keen on this, and Areva is working on significant developments in this area, taking advantage of the formidable wind conditions in certain areas of Morocco, more than 10 meters per second of wind, which allows us to have capacity factors of 65 to 70% in some sites in Morocco. But more than that, what we want to do is to create a whole vertically integrated value chain of hydrogen in Africa, in Morocco, from the production of green electrons to electrolyzers, to the production of green hydrogen, to the conversion to Haber-Bosch in green ammonia. The third main area that this opens up for us is green water desalination. We already have a project in Dakhla with a captive wind farm of 40 megawatts, and we have partnered with Itoshu, a Japanese partner, in order to be well positioned for the water desalination project in Casablanca. So we have partnered that with a Japanese company. And finally, we don't want to cater only to the high voltage market, to the biggest companies. We see it as our mission to also cater to the needs of companies in the medium voltage grid and smaller companies like SMEs. So we have created Areva services to be able to provide low-cost electricity and green electricity to smaller Moroccan companies. So here it is for Areva, an independent, private IPP in Africa that does everything it can to be a partner for all stakeholders in Africa, governments, private companies, and also households in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamadan. Now we'd like to welcome the third presenter, Mr. Kubota. His company, Mitsui Corporation, is also running business of wind power plant in Morocco. We'd like you to speak about your business in Morocco in another perspective. So, Kubota-san, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoshino. And also, I would like to appreciate all members who give me opportunity to introduce our, Taza wind farm IPP project in Morocco. especially, our, Nuria's Mr. Hamadan explained about Morocco's potential. So I would like to continue and specifically introduce our TAZA IPP project. Please go to next slide. Mitsui Company is originally trading firm, but currently we are working as one of the developer for the renewable energy, especially in the African countries. We participate in this project as a developer, but one of the important things is not only developer, we worked as a EPC contractor and also O&M contractor together with our French partner, EDF Renewables. And our share is, EDF Renewable 60%, and our share is 40%. But in the future, we will invite local authority, and that share will be 35%. And then the EDF Renewables share will be increased, and the same as Mitsui's share. Capacity was 87.2 megawatt for phase 1, and off-taker is ONE. This is electricity authority in Morocco. Our project cost, it was approximately 140 million euro, and the finance was arranged by JBIC and Nexi with Japanese Commercial Bank, MUFG, and SMBC, and Bank of Africa. Project site is in Morocco, that is 400 kilometers northeast from Casablanca. Actually, this project has a long history. We awarded this project as a preferred bidder 2012, but after that, we faced so many difficulties. And then after several discussions, we decided to divide this project into two phases. And then we signed on the loan agreement, including JBIC and Nexi, December 2019, and funded from JBIC Nexi, September 2020, and then we started construction work. At last, July this year, we completed construction, and then we started commercial operation date. Please go to next slide. This is some of the pictures of the execution of the project. The execution of the project is very dear. We need to live in that country. We need to eat together, and we need to breathe together until the completion of the project. As Mitsui's company, we would like to continuously contribute to the Africa renewable green transformation by utilizing our project development and capability and experience. And also, we would like to encourage African people to become more independent by working together with us and getting the opportunities to grow up together through these renewable energy project development. And also, we would like to continuously develop new renewable projects in Africa, especially by public and private cooperation approach, same as this TAZA project with Japanese government, such as JBIC, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, and Nexi, Nippon Export and Investment Insurance Company, under the umbrella of Ministry of Economy and Trade Industry. So we are ready to develop further renewable projects in the African countries. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kubota-san. We'd like to welcome the final presenter today, Mr. Ronald from Ofgem. We'd like you to hear your company's activities, such as off-grid plant. So Mr. Ronald, now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. My name is Geoffrey Rono, as you have mentioned, and I will take you through our activities in East Africa in the distributed energy market. The first slide here to show you what our views are on the African market, electricity market. We foresee, or the reports show, that this will double, more than double over the next 20 years, provided investments, as IRENA was saying earlier, investments are upped, so we see a big market in the electricity sector for Africa going forward. Next slide, please. However, the often unsaid player in this market is diesel generators. Every country you go to in Africa, every business, every household runs a diesel generator, mostly because of the issue of unstable grids which are not reliable or not available. Therefore, you find that in certain places, the generators produce more power, consume more diesel than actually the main national grid. This is a big problem for Africa, which we are very keen finding ways to resolve this problem. Next slide, please. And therefore, we ask ourselves, how is the future of Africa in terms of electricity? I think most countries, as we have seen from all the slides before, we have seen these large power plants generating power, and that is distributed to homes and businesses across the continent. However, there is now an emerging trend where not only are homes and businesses consuming power, but they're also generating power on their rooftops, on their premises. This is because either the grid is dirty, the grid is unreliable, or the grid is expensive. So we are seeing a big shift in the African continent towards distributed generation, and we as Ofgen are playing a big role in this transition. Next slide, please. Therefore, I tell you now about what who we are and what we do. As I've said earlier, we are Ofgen Limited. We are solar EPC and IPP company based out of Nairobi. So far, we are active in all East African countries, and we have implemented about 10 megawatts so far of solar power plants in East Africa. Our key customers are typically your commercial industrial customers, so multinationals, listed entities, and large concerns who have either problems for high cost of power, unstable power, or are very keen in terms of reducing the carbon emissions. Just to mention that we are indeed at Toyota Tusho is a shareholder in our business, the single largest shareholder in our business since 3 months ago now. And we are quite happy with this partnership because it's allowing us to spread our wings across the African continent, mostly in the Eastern and Southern African markets of Africa. And more so because also Toyota Tusho and its subsidiary CFAO are very keen on solarizing all their solar projects, or all their facilities with solar projects across Africa. Therefore, we are playing a big role in helping Toyota Tusho and CFAO implement this group goal of carbon neutrality by 2024. Next slide, please. This is my last slide, and it shows you what we are doing, what kind of projects we do, and the scale, and in what areas. So we do two kinds of projects. So on-grid projects where there's a grid and there's a solar plant, and the solar plant reduces the cost of consumption from the grid during the day. So for GlaxoSmithKline, we've done a 1 megawatt rooftop and carport system for their head office in Nairobi. This project has helped them save 50% of their electricity energy consumption during the day, and also reduce their carbon emissions significantly in line with their global carbon emission reduction strategy. On the far right there, you can see also we've got an off-grid lodge called IRENA Hotels, one of the top 5 lodges in Kenya. We, in 2018, implemented for them a 640 kilowatt peak system. This is off-grid and has got batteries. So this lodge is 90% reliant on renewable energy, and diesel consumption has been reduced by 90% and only consume about 100 liters of diesel per day in the colder months. This project is implemented as an IPP, so we are selling the power to the lodge, and they're paying us with consumption. The last one at the bottom there is I pick one for a project in South Sudan, in Juba, where there is no grid in South Sudan, or the grid is very weak. Therefore, we have implemented a 350 kilowatt peak carport system for Old Mutual in South Sudan with battery storage. And again, this project, we are selling power to the tower, and this is the tallest tower in South Sudan. And therefore, in the interest of time, that is my last comment. And back to you, moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald, for your informative presentation. So finally, I skip to wrap up today's discussion due to the time constraints. But let me just thank you, all panelists and speakers, for your great insights and views. So now I close the panel discussion, thanking all speakers again. Back to you, Kato-san.
Thank you, Mr. Hoshino, for your managing the informative discussion. Now it is a time to close our webinar. I would like to thank you all speakers for this fruitful discussion and the exchange of experience and your insightful perspectives. Again, thank you very much all for participating in this webinar. And from Abu Dhabi, I wish you all good health. Thank you.